As I said before, in case we haven't met, my name is Josh. I get to be on the pastoral staff here with Ruth and Jared. And it is so great to each and every week have an opportunity every Sunday to come together and just be able to celebrate. For those of us that follow Jesus, to celebrate the fact that life is different now. We get to be different now. There's something about celebrating together the hope that we have in Jesus, which is really powerful. And if you're someone who doesn't believe in Jesus, or if there's someone in your life who you think would enjoy coming into this sort of space, we want to try and make it as accessible for people to see that Jesus really is worth following. And one of the best things that we get to do as a church, I think, is this season of Be Rich, where we get to display to our community, and we get to display to our neighbors, to everyone who's within our world, that life can be better when we follow Jesus, and we just get to love those around us. So if you haven't been with us for the Be Rich season, all we do over Be Rich is concentrate on the fact that we are called as a church and as people that follow Jesus to live generously, to be people that give generously, that love generously. One of the things that the key verses that we look at over this comes from 1 Timothy chapter 6, where Paul, a follower of Jesus who died 2,000 years ago because he was around at the beginning. Paul was one of those guys that he heard about Jesus. He thought, this doesn't sound like a good idea. He was a devout Jewish follower, and he met Jesus, and he changed his life around, started following him. He said, Jesus is amazing. And because of Paul, there was this birth of the early church. And for the last 2,000 years, our world has been shaped by Paul's decision to follow Jesus and encourage other people to follow him as well. Timothy was one of the followers of Paul, and Paul was training him up and trying to instruct him how to live. And this verse here that we get from the book of 1 Timothy says, command them to do good deeds. This is Paul speaking to Timothy. Command those who are rich in his life, to do good deeds, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves, a firm foundation for the coming age, so they may take a hold of the life that is truly life. And Paul was trying to convey to Timothy, and I believe that as modern readers, he's trying to convey to us that when we live generously with what we have, when we live in a way that takes our time, our resources, and our financial position and makes it not about us and about other people, we get to take a hold of life that is truly life. So this Be Rich season is all about reminding ourselves that is a foundational part of what it means to follow Jesus, is how we be rich to other people. Be Rich is all about loving. It's all about giving, serving, and loving our community in Jesus' name. And the hope is that through this season is that us as people, personally, that we are able to step forward and become more loving, more giving, more generous with everything that we have together. So today I just want to have a quick look at one verse, one of Jesus' key teachings when it comes to what it means to love. And then I want to connect it into how we then practice that as individuals in our local context. So this is a famous piece of Jesus' teaching. It comes to us from Matthew chapter 22, verse 34 to 40. And what's happening is that Matthew is recording Jesus' interaction with people who were trying to get Jesus to think a certain way. So when Jesus was living, he was representing God, fully human, fully God, and he was walking around, and the current religious establishment heard what Jesus was saying, how Jesus was living, and they thought to themselves, no, this will not do. Because Jesus was saying all sorts of outlandish things. He was performing miracles. He was telling people that they are forgiven before God and that their sin has been erased. He was doing all sorts of stuff, and they were going, but he's not doing it the right way. Because they had a system, they had a structure. And Jesus was showing up and starting to do things outside of that system, outside of that structure. So the religious people of the time are trying to think, okay, well, we need to trip Jesus up so that he looks foolish and we can discredit him. Then that way, everything he's been saying doesn't count, because if we can trip him up, prove that he's wrong, we can just write him off, fake news, don't listen to that crazy guy over there. So they would time and time again come up to Jesus and just try and use words to trick him and trap him. And in one of those interactions, this is what happens. It says, hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, so one religious group was silenced, and they were going, oh, okay, they're one of the popular ones and they're pretty good at what they do. But Jesus had silenced them. So hearing that, the Pharisees got together and they concocted a plan. One of them, who was an expert in the law, someone who knew everything about the Jewish tradition and what you're meant to do as a Jewish person, came up and tested Jesus with this question. He said, which is the greatest commandment in the law? What's the greatest one? And he's thinking to himself, if I can just get Jesus to say something controversial, or to get him to think, or get him to even just to see this is a great question, and maybe the Pharisees can say, see, we know a little bit more than Jesus does. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to trap him. But Jesus replies. So he has an answer ready to go. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first, and this is the greatest commandment. To which they went, yep, sounds good. Not a problem at that point. The Pharisee who asked the question went, that's a pretty good answer. But then Jesus said something which sort of changed the perspective. And he went on and he said this. He said, and the second is like it. To which we, as reading that in English, go, okay, cool. First is the greatest commandment. The second one, which is similar to it, is this. But that's not what's actually happening there. What Jesus is saying, he says, the first commandment is love the Lord your God with all of your being. To which they said, we agree 100%. Then he goes, and the second is like it. He's not saying the second is inferior to the first. He's actually saying the second is in order. So the first is love your God with all of who you are. And the second in order and of equal importance is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. And he makes this summary statement. All the law and all of the prophets hang on these two commandments. And in that one moment, Jesus did something very helpful for us, but something that was very upsetting for them. For the people at the time, they heard what he said and they recognized, hang on a second, you're equating loving God with loving other people. And that's not quite how we think it should be done. But then for the next 2,000 years, when Jesus made that statement of love God and love other people and putting them on the same level field, saying that basically you can't show you love God without loving other people, he made the way for the church to become one of the greatest change makers in our world. He paved the way for people to choose loving other people so that they could succeed in life. He paved the way and he connected this reality that loving God without loving other people cannot work together. In another place he says, how can you love God who you don't see and hate a brother who you do see? In another part, when Jesus is confronted, he says, if you've got a gift to give to God, before you go and give your gift to God, make sure you are okay relationally with the people around you. And he said, it's even so important that if you've got a gift that you would like to give to God, but you are not relationally okay with someone who is in your orbit, you need to put that gift down, say, God, just 2 seconds, I'll give this gift to you in a minute, but I've just got to deal with this over here. You need to go over, you need to make that relationship right, then you come back to God, and then you can present your gift. That's how important loving other people was in Jesus's view. So let's put this into a little bit of practical here and now that you may be able to relate to. If you've got two good friends and they are fighting, but both of them are okay with you, how awkward is that dynamic? It's weird. Because you're over here with person A and you love them and you're having a good relationship with them, and you're over here with person B and you love them, you have a good relationship with them, but then they're fighting with each other, and all of a sudden it's not as simple as let's go to the movies together. Oh, I can't because B's going to be there. Oh. Hey, let's go to my place and hang out and have a barbecue together. I would love to, but A's going to be there. It's weird. It's tough. Let's make it a little bit more personal. How many of us have family dynamics where you're okay with them, but they're not okay with each other? It's hard. It's stressful. It's annoying. It's difficult. And I'm sure there's great reasons as to why that is the case, but I'm just pointing it out. It's a hard dynamic to deal with. And for those of you that are parents, how hard would it be? Or how hard is it if you have two kids you are in good relationship with, but they're not in relationship with each other? It's hard. It would hurt your heart. In the same way, God, as a good father, looks down at all of his creation and all of his children, and he is saying, how can I be in good relationship with you and good relationship with you? And how can my heart not be hurt if you are not in relationship and good relationship with one another? And that focus of Jesus, that idea that Jesus could take all of their prior thinking, which was, as long as I'm okay with God, I'm good. And he said, hang on a second, you can't be good with God if you're not also good with those around you. That has been a dynamic shift, which has been difficult as a follower of Jesus to follow through with. Because that forces us, those of us that follow, if you don't follow Jesus, you get a pass on this. You don't have to love your neighbor. You can choose to love your neighbor. But for those of us that say, yeah, we love God, we have to love our neighbor. Why? Because the guy who, God said, do it. So we're like, yep, that's what we do. It's hard. It's difficult. It is such a hard thing on our human hearts. Sorry, what happened there? To live well. It's so hard on our human hearts to live well in relationship with other people, because it is hard to ask for forgiveness. It's hard to say sorry. And sometimes it's hard to even accept forgiveness or accept a sorry from somebody else. I was chatting with Buster about this yesterday. He was almost up here preaching today because we were talking about a bit of this content. And he said it's hard for us as followers of Jesus that have done it for many, many years. We have to be the ones that are on the front foot with this. We have to be the ones that are out there loving, that are doing this. And that's hard. It's difficult. But it's what Jesus commanded us to do. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. Yeah, many of us that follow Jesus say, tick. I read my Bible, I give, I serve. Woo! Me and God, we're good. Love your neighbor as yourself. Jimmy? Yes, Jimmy. Sandra? Yes, Sandra. Like, it's almost like we go, yeah, we get you, God, and love, yeah, but not them, right? And God's like, yeah, there's someone I love. From God's perspective, that's someone I created, I loved, and I died for. So we have been given this task to love those around us. So, when it comes to loving God and loving people, it is just different sides of the same coin. And we can try and remove those and say, I'm good with God, but I'm not good with people, but that does catch up with us eventually, because that's not how to live faithfully to following Jesus. And I can't help you with what that looks like in your particular circumstance, but what I can ask you to do is to, if you have someone in your life where there is a disconnect, there is a relational breakdown, the first thing you need to do is just pray, talk to God about it, and say, God, I recognize this is not right. And then the second thing you need to do is, with the toolkit you have, is you need to figure out what is it that you're going to do to respond to that relational disconnect or that relational brokenness. For some of you, because of safety, you will remain apart from them because there is a safety component. That is fine. For some of you, there's an ego component. You're going to have to die to yourself because you've got something, a bee in your bonnet, they wronged you in the past, they did that, they, and you're going to have to put aside that ego and actually take a step towards them. For some of you, you need to go to counseling. I need counseling from time to time. You need to go and sit and talk to someone with the right skills, the right expertise to give you some steps forward. For some of you, you need to just write a letter, put it away, don't send it to them. Go do some work on yourself and then come back and read the letter, and hopefully things have shifted. But loving others is so important because God loves everyone. Jesus died for the entire world. And when we are relationally, emotionally, and spiritually disconnected from other people, it hurts God's heart. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to invite up a couple of friends. And I'm going to invite up Ben, coming up here. Come and grab a seat over here. And I'm inviting Itika. Who's here this week? Last week I went, where's Itika? And she was prepping for a baby shower for son and daughter-in-law. And then she ribbed me for the rest of our time together. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's fine. It doesn't matter. No one's keeping attendance. Come grab a seat here. Before we hear from these guys, I just want to just finish on this. That's the hard part of the love. Here's the great news. Here's the good news. Here's the fun part of what it means to love other people. We get to use our gifts, our talents, and our passion to love other people. How cool is that? I reckon that's amazing. When we get to serve those in our community, we get to love our friends, our families, our soon-to-be friends that we don't know yet. That is good news. That is fun work. Unless you're an introvert, one person at a time, introverts, all right? I know some of you are like, Josh, that is an extrovert. All the people, love all the people. Yeah, I hear you. Just do one at a time. And you guys do deep work. So thank you for the deep work that you guys do. But no matter your personality type, no matter who you are, following Jesus is about loving God, loving others, and using the tools in your hand to lift those around you up. I think that's a pretty cool thing. So, out here, and where's John standing at the door? Hi, John. There you went, John. There's a little table underneath the Be Rich stuff, and there's three, containers. One says gift, one says food, one says company. This is just a self-reporting thing. If you are going to show your neighbor some love, if you're going to show someone love this week, this fortnight, by going along and giving them some food or a gift or company, would you mind going, and there's little Lego blocks there, taking a Lego block and just putting it into whichever one that it correlates with? And I just want to say, if you normally do this, you can self-report and say, yeah, every week I go and I see my neighbor, or I go and I do this. That's great. But what I would challenge you to do is, if you are able to find a way to love someone above and beyond what you normally do, go and get a Lego block and go and drop it into one of those. Because we'd love to see the impact as a community we have of loving practically, physically, not just I'll pray for them, but also go and give them some food, go and hang out with them, go and do something for your neighbor. And we're going to see the sort of good stuff we can get up to.